Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. Welcome back. This is part 2 of the Q&A with the IBFP. Let's just dig right into it. This is the first question comes from D. Jefferson. Why is it people don't give Usyk the credit he deserves? It seems like as he proves more and more, there's always the next question about Usyk. I see Usyk being the top heavyweight until one of the young guns come up and prove differently. I can't give him that now, of course, but after a few fights, he'll show everyone. There's no heavyweight with his boxing ability. Fury's is the only one Usyk has problems with, and that's because of length and Fury's ability. I believe Usyk beats all the rest. Your thoughts, please. That's a great question, D. Jefferson. I think Usyk is a top-level fighter. He's an elite-level fighter. He's shown incredible skills, timing, endurance. He is a masterful fighter to watch, and I like Usyk. I like the fact that Usyk is moving up to heavyweight. I think it's going to be very exciting in the heavyweight division. I think it's a very exciting time for the heavyweight division. But we also have to understand that Usyk is not the size of today's heavyweights. He's not 6'6". He's not, as big as Anthony Joshua, even a big baby Jarrell Miller, Dillian White, a Tyson Fury, a Deontay Wilder. These guys are freaking massive. So you have to understand, yes, he may have skill, but he's going to get hit. He's going to take shots. And can he handle the power of a heavyweight? Because you have to understand, a heavyweight can knock you out with one punch. This is what heavyweights do. And these are massive guys. And so I've seen Usyk get hit a lot by Bellew, and I know that Bellew is not going to hit like any of those top heavyweights. I just know that for a fact. I think Tyson Fury is in a unique position because he's so skilled and he's such an elite level boxer, pure boxer, that he would give Usyk all kinds of fits, and I would have to favor Tyson Fury over Usyk, but I would also have to favor Anthony Joshua over Usyk as well. I believe Anthony Joshua has very good fundamental boxing ability. He's literally improved fight after fight after fight. He's fighting nothing but top 10 boxers and contenders and champions. He's fought a Joseph Parker who was very well skilled, handled Joseph Parker, beat him over 12 rounds. So, Anthony Joshua has shown that he can win a 12-round decision. He also has elite level punching power. I believe he would stop Usyk, but I think Usyk would present a unique set of challenges for Anthony Joshua. But I still would have to favor Anthony Joshua. I would have to favor Dillian White as well. I believe these guys are just too big and too strong for Usyk. I think Usyk could handle a guy like Jarrell Miller. I think Usyk could handle a guy like, even a Deontay Wilder. I think Usyk beats him as well because he has the skill set to be able to avoid those shots for the 12 rounds. The majority of those shots. Usyk is very skilled and a high-level fighter, but I just don't think that he's ready for the top 3 in Joshua, Fury, and White. Very good question, D. Next question is from Frankie Gallegos. Funny how everyone says Spence is too big for Mikey. They act like they've never seen a smaller person beat up a bigger person. Happens every day. You're absolutely right, Frankie Gallegos. Errol Spence Jr., this is what people don't understand about boxing. These guys act like casuals. And, a lot of these guys are Errol Spence Jr. groupies. Not fanboys, but they're groupies. Because if you say anything about Errol Spence Jr., these guys are personally offended. Like they know Errol Spence Jr., like they're his best friend or they're in training camp with him every day. You have to understand that Errol Spence Jr. is a very good fighter. He's elite level body puncher, but he's not an elite level boxer. He has poor head movement, and he's a very predictable fighter who's easy to time. He's never been in with a fighter who had a skill set that could trouble Errol Spence. They all played into what he does best. So you have to understand that Errol Spence Jr. is in danger of losing to a highly skilled fighter. And if he was fighting a guy his same side, like a Terrence Bud Crawford, then that's a fight that I would ultimately have to pick Terrence Crawford to win handedly, easily, because I believe Terrence Crawford would just completely outclass Errol Spence Jr. But the fact that Mikey Garcia is smaller, coming up 2 weight divisions to challenge Errol Spence Jr., I think that's the ultimate challenge for Mikey, being able to absorb Errol Spence's power. Because if Mikey can show that he can absorb Errol Spence's power, he can't absorb constant pressure from Errol Spence, but if he can use lateral movement and take the shots that Spence does give and that does land, then I think Mikey Garcia is in very good shape to win that fight. People do act like Errol Spence Jr. is just a monster who can't be hurt, who can't be beat. And we all know from the Kell Brook fight that that's completely untrue. We all know that he had moments and times in that fight where he looked way more human than anyone cares to admit. I think that Errol Spence Jr. is just being overly hyped right now. And that height will come out and come down the night of the fight when we see how good Errol Spence Jr. really is. Great question, Frankie. The next question is from Aviva Islander. Do you think we as boxing fans will ever become smart and support fighters because they are good in the ring and can bring attention to the sport? Or will we remain stupid and blindly support anyone only because they look like us? That's a great question. I think a lot of boxing fans, are coming to realize things like, hey, the boxing isn't about race, isn't about necessarily where you're from or who you are. Boxing is basically about skill sets. It's about entertainment. This is what boxing really is. Guys want to make it personal, and boxing is not a personal thing. Yes, boxing has been molded to be a very racial sport, a very, a nationalistic sport for a lot of countries. Yes, that's what boxing has been molded to be. But I think that that's slowly changing because, yes, you have huge groups of fans who are only, support a narrative for fighters who look like them and promote race-based agendas. But you have to understand that at the IBFP, we don't even entertain race in our debate. Any debate that we have over a fighter, whether they're good or bad, whether we believe they'll win or lose, never based on race, never based on nationality, always based on skill sets. That's how we base and view fights. And I think that we found a lot of like-minded people on this channel. And I think as the channel continues to grow, we continue to see more and more people with those same views. So I think the world is changing, but it's slowly changing. Great question. The next question is from Anthony Martinez. Nuke, all love from Phoenix, Arizona. Do you think the Jack versus Brown fight should have been stopped because of the cut? He had a couple of discussions and it seems to be mixed. That's a great question, Anthony. Phoenix, Arizona, shout out. I have to be honest and unbiased. I think the fight should have been stopped. And the reason why I think the fight should have been stopped, is because you can't expect Badu to say, no, I don't want to continue. But you have to understand the blood was leaking from his forehead uncontrollably. He was pretty much down on all the cards. And not only that, you could tell he was taking a beating round after round. There was nothing for him to be gained. Nothing to be gained from letting the fight go on the full 12 rounds. Someone should have stepped up and did the right thing and stopped the fight. But that's just my opinion. Thank you very much, Anthony. The next question comes from Lopez Bunch. Shout out to Lopez Bunch. Okay, let's talk some smaller, possibly mega fights at 115 between Sorket Rungvisai and Jerwin Cajas. That's a very good fight. And 118 pounds between Inouye and Nonito Donaire. Lastly, for you Mayflower fanboys, and unbeaten record has already been broken and belongs to the Thai fighter named Wang. And 52-0 records are records fanboys, and that's 100% true. Although he did beat Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s records, we all know that Floyd is the better fighter. We all know Floyd is an elite level fighter, a Hall of Fame fighter. But at the same time, the record is really meaningless overall. It's just a record. Doesn't have much clout behind it because anyone can reach that record. Deontay Wilder is not far from getting to 52-0 or 53-0. He's not that far off, and he's basically fought bum after bum after bum. So you have to understand that you can just build up a resume of bums and get to that point. So those type of records don't impress me. What impressed me is, can you beat elite level competition on a consistent basis while they're in their prime? Not when they're too young or when they're too old, but when they're in their prime. That is the question. Rungvisai versus Cajas, I think that's a great fight. I'd have to personally favor Rungvisai. And Inouye versus Donaire, I think that'll be a very interesting fight, an explosive fight. But at this point, I can't pick anyone over Inouye. But that's a great question, Lopez Bunch. Thank you very much. The next question is from Fernando Venezuela. I had a debate yesterday with a couple of friends and family, and they said Marquez would dominate Chavez in their prime. Who do you think would win, and would any fighter dominate the fight? That's a very interesting question, Fernando. I think that that's a very good fight, a very close fight. I don't think that either guy would dominate the fight. I would obviously have to lean towards Marquez. I've just been a huge Marquez guy after I've seen him fight again and again and again. He's very talented. He works extremely hard. I think it'll be a very close fight, and even a 50-50 fight. Either guy could win that fight. Great question, Fernando. The next question is from Iron Kong 26. Will the PBC sign welterweights unify this year? I don't think so. And this is why I don't think so. I think Errol Spence Jr. has already stated that he's looking for the easiest route possible. And so now will they unify against each other? So that means Errol Spence and Sean Porter will have to get together and fight, and Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman stated that he's not fighting Errol Spence until 2020. Period. He's not fighting Errol Spence until 2020. Also, if Errol Spence Jr. loses and the unexpected happens and he loses to Mikey Garcia, that delays and derails all plans for the PBC welterweights. So a lot of things can happen. Sean Porter could end up fighting Manny Pacquiao, which he said that he would love to have that fight. So if Sean Porter fights Manny Pacquiao, who wins that fight? I think that's a very interesting fight. So I don't believe that all the welterweights on the PBC panel will unify this year. I think it benefits the PBC to have multiple welterweight champions and keep the debate and discussion going as to who's the best. But that's a great question. The next question is from Lopez Bunch again. Okay, my friend, I have a few things to say. First, and this is to all the real boxing fans, because fanboys will not understand this. Is it me, or is boxing turning into an old-style wrestling circus like back in the day? You had the WWE, WCW, AWA, etc. Boxing pre-2000s was about elite fighters, each other to be first, and getting paid was just their bonus. But nowadays, elite fighters ask how much first and how much risk before they agree. And I don't think it's the fighters. It's the team that does this, because everybody in the team wants to get paid. So IBFP, do you agree or not that Top Rank, Golden Boy Promotions, Mayflower Promotions, and PBS all have their part in this crap? Yes, I absolutely agree with you. I think that all promotional companies make things this way. I think they all make it, difficult to create the best fighting the best, make it about money, and ultimately it is a business. Boxing is a business, and it needs to grow as a business. So I understand that there has to be some type of building the sport, growing the fighters. I understand that, but when it comes time for the best to fight the best, that hurts the sports more than it helps. There's nothing to be gained from Deontay Wilder being held back and not wanting to fight in a historic undisputed fight against Anthony Joshua. That helps boxing. That doesn't hurt. Whether he wins or loses, it doesn't hurt boxing. So these are the type of things and tricks that all these different promoters use. And I agree with you, Lopez Bunch. You're 100% right. The next question is from Caesar Janet. When you opening up the phone lines? The phone lines are coming very shortly. I'm hoping that we can have the phone lines open and ready to go by March. We're getting everything set up, brother. Thank you very much. The next question is from Daniel Beam. Who do you got between Hurd Harrison rematch? I'd have to pick. I think it's a 50-50 fight. I would favor Tony Harrison because the boxer always gets better in the rematch, the pure boxer. So I'd have to favor Tony Harrison. Munguia versus Hurd. I think right now Jerry Swift Hurd would win that fight because Jaime Munguia is still a little too green. But the better Munguia gets, it depends. It's all on timing. So if Munguia gets another 3 or 4 fights under his belt, I think it's a much closer fight, and it's a 50-50 fight. But as of right now, Jerry Swift Hurd would have the edge and the nod. And Munguia versus Harrison, I think Munguia is just too big, too strong, and constantly improving. I think he'd catch Harrison and stop it. Great question, Daniel. The next question is from Luis Ochoa. My pound for pound is the IBFP. Congrats, man. You're doing great. You're doing a great job. My question is, thank you, first of all, Luis. My question is, who do you consider to be the best at 140 pounds, a fighter at the moment, and where do you rank Prograis, Ramirez, and Taylor? And last, who would you give Mikey the most trouble at 140 pounds? That's a very interesting question, Luis. I'd have to put Taylor and Prograis is 1 and 2, and Ramirez at 3. I think those are the best 3 fighters. It's hard for me to pick who would be number one. I think I need to see Prograis and Taylor fight just to determine the number one spot overall before I'm able to say that. Who would give Mikey the most trouble at 140 pounds? I think they would all give Mikey trouble. I think Taylor would give him the most, because Taylor is such a top level boxer. I think that Taylor would give him probably the most trouble. Prograis and Ramirez would also give him trouble, but it's just Taylor is just a little bit different in his approach stylistically that could cause Mikey Garcia a little bit of trouble. But I think Mikey Garcia's power is what would ultimately decide that particular fight. Great question, Luis. The next question is from Junior Gonzalez. What are your thoughts on Ricardo El Finito Lopez? Was he one of the all-time best? And what are your thoughts on Edwin Valero? Even though he passed away, RIP. Okay, that's a very good question, Junior Gonzalez. Now, if you break down Ricardo Lopez, he has a stellar record of 51-0-1, I believe. And not only that, he's shown that he's able to come through and win a lot of wars and battles. So I think he is one of the most underrated fighters of all time. Absolutely. And also in regards to Edwin Valero, I think that Edwin Valero is one of the most underrated fighters as well. 27 wins, 27 knockouts. So you can definitely give him some credit. So I think that these guys' stories aren't told enough, and for them to be big mainstream names that people know about consistently. Great question, Junior. I appreciate it. Good history. The next question is from Dro LPZ, IBFP. Who do you think would win right now? Hooker versus Ramirez. I think that's a very good fight. I think it's a very close fight, a 50-50 fight as of right now. I don't know. That's one of the fights that I just can't call. I cannot call that fight. I think it's just going to be so close. It's really razor thin on who you could pick to win that fight. It's really a toss-up. But hopefully that fight gets made. Great question, Dro. The next question is from David Catero. Who has less heart, AB or Victor Ortiz? Adrien Broner, in my opinion. I think Victor Ortiz will stand in the pocket and trade, even though he might get knocked out. AB absolutely has no heart. He's scared to death in the fight against pretty much anybody. Great question. The next question is from Omar 1. Do you think Adrien Broner is still a gatekeeper? Absolutely. Who should he fight next? He states, I think Jose Benavidez Jr. would be a good fight. I think that would be an excellent fight. And I think that Adrien Broner would do the same to Jose Benavidez Jr. that he did to pretty much Manny Pacquiao and Mikey Garcia. Run from him all night, not throw enough punches, and lose the bout. I think Jose, if he stands and trades with Jose, he might end up getting stopped or hurt. Great question. The next question comes from El Chapo. Let's talk about that Jacobs and how he will get stopped, suspect chin, and how he loves to leave his body open. Canelo is fixing to have a good feast, ribs, and liver anyone. A good question, El Chapo. I think Danny Jacobs and Canelo Álvarez is a very close fight, a 50-50 fight, but you do raise some valid points as, is Jacobs' chin as solid and as strong as we think it is? We've seen him have a few issues in different fights. We've never seen anybody work Daniel Jacobs' body like Canelo Álvarez has the ability to. So I think that would definitely be the key to this fight. Great question, El Chapo. The next question is from Immortal Fox. Give us your thoughts on Munguia and his potential upcoming matches and his open workout with the Nui. Please. Absolutely, Immortal. I think his most recent fight that he has coming up, I think that he stops this guy within the first 4 rounds. I think it's just another progression in a showcase type of fight. And Jaime Munguia has shown that he's improved fight after fight. Liam Smith, he's shown that he's improved fight after fight since he fought, a Saddam Ali. So, we know that Jaime Munguia is just on an upward trajectory of trying to get in-ring experience. Great question. The next question is from German. Much love to your channel. If I'm not mistaken, I see a platform war with DAZN and Showtime and PBC and so on and so forth. Do you think DAZN will reach that level to where they're boxing number one source? For $10 a month, it's not a bad deal, but not a lot of boxers agree. You have to understand that German is that a lot of people are fanboying for either the PBC, they're fanboying for ESPN, whatever they're fanboying for, they're not fanboying for us, because the general public and fans do not want to pay $100 for a pay-per-view. People would much rather pay the $10 a month and have this be the Netflix of boxing. You see DAZN has already signed two of the biggest stars in the world in Canelo Álvarez and Anthony Joshua. So basically they have the two biggest stars. They're just adding more and more to it. They pretty much have the whole middleweight division locked up. They need more welterweights. I think that's what they need. But you have guys like, the PBC and ESPN. ESPN is willing to work with DAZN. The PBC doesn't appear to be willing to work with DAZN because I believe they're so threatened by it. They don't want pay-per-view to end. I think that they think that messes up their business. But this is ultimately great for boxing, fighting on an app at a reasonable price without pay-per-view prices. I think DAZN will continue to succeed. I think DAZN is succeeding, and I think that they will blow all the other competitors out of the water when Canelo fights Daniel Jacobs, because Canelo's first fight against Rocky Fielding, it made DAZN app the #1 most downloaded app. So you got to keep that in mind. Great question. The next question is from Apolonio Mata. Why do they have so many damn belts in every division? I think it's just a money reason. I think that each belt, represents a champion, and I think the more champions there are, the more intrigue there is to a division. And I think it's simple as that. And plus, they can collect sanctioning fees. Great question. The next question is from Remy Martin. Do a video about what would happen to Canelo's career if he were to lose by Danny Jacobs by decision. I think that's a very interesting question, and we will definitely look into that. The next question is from Jessica Cardenas. Can you talk to us about Danny Garcia? Is he still a good fighter? Absolutely, he's still a very good fighter. He's the fights he's lost were very close fights, and I think that he can still compete with anybody at welterweight. Who should he face? There's rumors that he should face Manny Pacquiao next. I think that'll be a fantastic fight for him, and I think it's a fight he can win. Is it time to hang it up? Absolutely not. Danny Jacobs has a lot left in the tank. He's still young. The next question, not Danny Jacobs, Danny Garcia. Sorry. The next question comes from Fight Lab UK. Do you think AB will let his hands go for the hood in his next fight? That's a great question, Fight Lab UK. Absolutely not. I think the hood will let their hands go for AB after he loses another fight. Great question. The next question is from Vicente Montero. This is old, but do you think Teofimo's knockout to Freitas was fake? Absolutely not. Great question, though. The next question is from Kid Top Skull. What's next for AB? Do you think he will ever be a championship fighter again? Keep up the good work. Thank you very much. I don't think that Adrien Broner is ever going to be a top championship fighter unless he dramatically changes his style. The next question is from Swizz Kid. What's up, Swizz Kid? 316. Leo Santa Cruz versus Lomachenko. Who you got? I have to pick Vasil Lomachenko at this point. It's the weight class is a little bit off. I need to see Leo Santa Cruz compete up there before I'm able to sign with him on that. But I think that'll be ultimately a great fight. I don't think it'll be a blowout. I think it'll be close, but I think Leo Santa Cruz does have a skill set that could seriously bother Vasil Lomachenko. Great question. Once again, this concludes the Q&A with the IBFP. Please share, like, and you must absolutely subscribe.